How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of the Geeky Gentleman, the podcast for all your geeky needs, fashion, and lifestyle tips, all rolled into one perfectly packaged podcast. Well, if you haven't heard the news, COVID-19, aka the coronavirus, is spreading like crazy, and many countries already have closed down businesses and told people to stay indoors to help flatten the curve and slow the spread of the virus. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, you should be doing your part by staying indoors to make sure you don't spread the virus. But fear not. I'm going to be listing you guys 10 of my favorite TV shows to binge watch so you can chill indoors while beating the cabin fever and COVID-19. Alrighty then, enough said, let's jump right into the podcast. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This cult 90s drama is literally my favorite TV show of all time. Did you actually know that Joss Whedon, the director of the first two Avenger films, created this TV show? Buffy the Vampire Slayer helped bring vampire shows into the mainstream, so all you fans of Twilight, Vampire Diaries, and True Blood can all thank Buffy. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a supernatural drama about a high school girl named Buffy, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. She finds out that she's a slayer, one in a long line of young women chosen by fate to battle the forces of evil. As the Slayer, she has mystical powers that grant her increased physical strength, endurance, agility, and accelerated healing. The series starts with Buffy more as a reluctant hero who just wants to live a normal teenager life, and it follows her battles as she grows older and learns to embrace her destiny as the Slayer. But if you think Buffy is just about vampires, you're wrong. This show uses demons as a metaphor for all the inner demons we face throughout our lives. The show spearheaded the entire female empowerment movement with Buffy and is one of the running themes throughout the show, as well as the personal sacrifices one has to make for the sake of the world. With a richness of innovative storytelling, Emmy-nominated episodes, and an epic supporting cast of actors, this show is a must-watch. Get ready for all the feels, because I've never laughed and cried so much in any series in my entire life. Once you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you'll find out why this show is constantly, and I mean it, constantly listed as one of the greatest TV shows of all time. Other actors you'll recognize in the show include Alyson Hannigan, David Boreanaz, and James Marsters. Avatar: The Last Airbender / Legend of Korra. This is one of my favorite cartoons ever. I actually just finished rewatching it for the third time and it is still so epic. If you think it's just a children's cartoon, then you have to wait until you see it. The show has such a deep and emotional subtext and showcases dark subject matters including genocide and authoritarianism. In The Last Airbender, we're introduced to the 4 nations of the world based around the elements of water, earth, fire, and air. Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony. But everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all 4 elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him the most, he vanished. 100 years pass before the Avatar, an airbender named Aang, emerges. The show follows Aang as he struggles with the complete loss of his people and culture, learns to master the 4 elements, and brings balance to the world from the destructive Fire Nation. The Last Airbender created such a rich and vibrant world, and the conception of the bending of the elements is completely well thought out and superbly drawn. Each bending style is derived from a specific Chinese martial art form, and each nation takes its cues from the physical embodiment of their respective element. Water bending is modeled after Tai Chi. Earth bending is modeled after Hung Gar. Firebending is modeled after Northern Shaolin, and airbending is modeled after Bagua. The show has garnered critical acclaim for its impressive storytelling and praised for being one of the most moving cartoons ever created. It even delves into the issues of war, gender discrimination, female empowerment, oppression, and questions surrounding fate and destiny. Now, how good is this series? I mean, it's good enough that Netflix is currently underway in creating a live-action version of the show for its streaming service. And pay no attention to the live action film that came out in 2010. It's a disgrace! Shame on you, M. Night Shyamalan. The series became so popular that it spurred a sequel titled The Legend of Korra. The Legend of Korra is set 70 years after The Last Airbender and follows the journey of the new avatar, Korra, who is a female reincarnation of Aang. The Avatar is cyclically reincarnated amongst the four nations, and this time the Avatar is a member of the Water Tribe. The series follows Avatar Korra as she faces political and spiritual unrest in the modernizing world. Where Aang struggled with learning to bend all the elements in The Last Airbender, Korra's journey through the series is more spiritual, with her connecting with what it really means to be an Avatar. The Legend of Korra is even more mature than The Last Airbender. It's a magnificent masterpiece and addresses spiritual and socio-political concerns, loads of character development and world building, heart-racing action, and is fantastically animated. It's one of the best cartoons ever, guys. You have to check it out. Schitt's Creek. If you're wanting a more funny sitcom show to watch, then look no further than Schitt's Creek. I originally started watching Schitt's Creek as a background show while I was working around in my flat. But I became so enamored with the characters that I had to restart it from the beginning while giving it my full attention. The series centers around the wealthy Rose family of Johnny and Moira and their two adult children, David and Alexis. In the very first episode, the family lose their fortune after being defrauded and are forced to rebuild their lives in a small town called, you guessed it, Schitt's Creek, which they own solely because it was bought as a joke birthday gift for David. The hilariousness ensues as we watch the Rose family struggle to adjust to living in their two adjacent rooms in a run-down motel, and their conflict of their well-to-do attitudes amongst the more provincial people of the town. The show starts off with a lot of fish-out-of-the-water jokes, with the Rose family dealing with their current situation, but it truly comes into its own and builds memorable characters, such as a weirdly accented matriarch, Moira Rose, who is literally my favorite by far. She is hilarious. The show was called the best TV show right now in 2019 by TV Guide and was praised for its depiction of the pansexual character of David and how his sexuality is just simply accepted without any homophobia. The show features Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Dan Levy, and Annie Murphy. Sense8. Sense8 begins when a psychic connection between 8 strangers from different parts of the world is awakened by a woman called Angelica, who kills herself to avoid capture by a nemesis named Whispers. The 8 eventually discover that they form a group of clusters called Sense8s, which are human beings who are mentally and emotionally linked, can sense and communicate with each other, and can share knowledge, language, and skills. This show takes the theme that we're all the same and connected to such a higher level of action and drama. It's filmed across the entire globe, with Sense8s being in Nairobi, Seoul, San Francisco, Mexico City, Mumbai, London, Berlin, and Chicago. This show was truly ahead of its time, even for the streaming giant Netflix. Even though the show's critical reception was positive, Netflix ended up axing the show after the second season. But fanfare took to the internet to demand Netflix bring back the show, which it did with a 2-hour special to give the series a proper ending. Sense8's diverse characters and creative intersections between the stories make it a visually and emotionally compelling show. The power of the show lies in the Sense8's ability to empathize for one another even though they are from different parts of the world. Its themes of diversity and tolerance are prevalent throughout. You'll thank me later after watching this show because it is still one of the best shows I have ever seen, both story and visually. Westworld. This sci-fi western series is based on the 1973 film of the same name. The story takes place in Westworld, which is a fictional, technologically advanced Wild West theme park populated by human-like androids called Host. The park caters to the wealthy guests who can enter Westworld to indulge in their wildest fantasies within the park without fear of retaliation from the host, who are programmed not to harm humans. The narrative of Westworld is complex enough to keep you enthralled and ready to watch the next episode immediately. It's an intelligent drama that's brilliantly addictive and set against a crazy future of artificial intelligence and what it actually means to be human. The mystery and reveals in Westworld are some of the best I have ever seen in any TV show. The acting in the show is perfect, and the cast includes Evan Rachel Wood, Anthony Hopkins, Thandie Newton, Ed Harris, Tessa Thompson, James Marsden, Jeffrey Wright, and Luke Hemsworth, the other Hemsworth brother. Don't fuck with cats. Hunting an internet killer. So I stumbled upon this true crime documentary and ended up actually staying up till 3 a.m. to finish it because it's that addicting. This limited series follows a group of internet-savvy people who use social media to launch a manhunt for a killer who gained international notoriety in 2010 for sharing a graphically violent video online of himself killing 2 kittens. If you think he stopped at kittens, well, you have another thing coming. This documentary is so addicting because you can see how your average Joe can use social media to become sort of a detective as they try to track this killer using images and videos in a bloody game of cat and mouse. Game of Thrones. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones yet, well, now might be a good time to do it. Binge watching this series back to back will help you remember the plethora of characters and plot lines that are intertwined in this series. Game of Thrones is a fantasy drama based on the books by George R.R. Martin and is set in the fictional 7 kingdoms of Westeros. The series chronicles the violent clashes between each noble family's kingdom for the crown of the Iron Throne, while other families struggle for their independence from the crown. But besides battling each other, they face additional threats from the icy north. The series is perfectly cast and set off the careers of many actors that you will see everywhere now. The series has such a high production value and a fully realized world and compelling characters. The vivid storytelling and introduction of a vast array of characters makes it easy for everyone to find someone to relate to and, want to win the ultimate prize of the Iron Throne. It also makes it just as horrifying because the inclusion of so many characters means that it's easier to get rid of some characters with a gruesome death. And Game of Thrones 100% plays on the shock value of killing off main characters at a minute's notice. Now get ready because this series starts off exceptionally strong. I believe at some point around season 4 or 5, it dipped a little for me in the sense of being a bit slow in comparison to prior seasons. And for the love of God, get ready because the final season, which to this day is still hated by fans, including myself, as the creators of the show decided to cut the season in half, rush all their plot lines, and give one of the most unsatisfying endings to a beloved series ever. The cast includes Peter Dinklage, Lena Headey, Emilia Clarke, Kit Harington, Sophie Turner, and many, many more. The Mandalorian. Now, you don't have to be knowledgeable in Star Wars films to appreciate this amazing series. The Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. It follows the journey of a warrior and bounty hunter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. You've probably seen all those Baby Yoda memes across the internet. Well, this is where they came from. This action-packed space western series benefits from the established Star Wars universe, but at no point relies on any of the main characters from the film to carry the story. The pacing and storytelling of this series is expertly crafted, and you will literally be wishing that you could have your own Baby Yoda. As your average Star Wars fan, I enjoyed the series much more than the film's episodes 7, 8, and 9. Much, much more. Legion. As a huge X-Men fan, I've never liked any of the live TV shows that have come from the X universe except this one. Legion is the story of David Haller, who happens to be the son of Professor Charles Xavier. David, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, was placed in a psychiatric hospital, but after an encounter with a fellow patient, he is confronted with the fact that there may be more to his illness and is possibly one of the strongest mutants in existence. I've actually never seen a show like Legion before. The series is told from the unreliable point of view of David and mixes 1960s design with modern-day elements while incorporating stunning visuals to convey David's distorted view of reality. Legion is an intelligent show and is a visual masterpiece. One of the things I've always hated about the X-Men films is that they never showed audiences the astral plane. The astral plane is a dimension where psychics can travel with their mind outside the physical world and where the power of their thoughts become reality. The use of the astral plane allows for some surreal and mind-bending visual depictions of what it means to be a powerful psychic. Don't expect David to stand there with an intense look in his eyes as we've seen Professor X and Jean Grey do in the X-Men films. The series cleverly uses the astral plane for some visually arresting effects and properly showcases the power levels of psychics. For all those people excited about the upcoming Disney Plus show WandaVision, this is the vibe that I think WandaVision will be taking. The cast includes Dan Stevens, Aubrey Plaza, and Jean Smart. The Handmaid's Tale. Get ready to fear the end of the world, because watching The Handmaid's Tale will have you realizing how fragile the state of the world is and how we're one major event away from a dystopian future like this show. The Handmaid's Tale is a dystopian tragedy series based on the 1985 novel of the same name by Margaret Atwood. The series takes place following a second American Civil War, wherein a totalitarian society subjects fertile women, called handmaids, into childbearing slavery. The Handmaid's Tale is a haunting and engrossing show that is perfectly paced, suspenseful, and visually brutal. You'll find yourself holding your breath as you're really worried about how something like this could happen and then fearful that it isn't such a reach. The social commentary of the series is profoundly relevant and focuses on the themes of power, sexuality, feminism, the power of language, and gender conflict. The cast features some exquisite acting by Elizabeth Moss, Yvonne Strahovski, and Joseph Fiennes. And there you have it, gentlemen, 10 of my favorite TV shows to binge watch while you wait for COVID-19 to dissipate. Stay strong, everyone. And I want to say thanks again for listening to another episode of The Geeky Gentleman. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the podcast. That always makes my day. Feel free to drop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at DriftingDecal. I'd love to hear what you guys think of my TV show recommendations. If you want more content from me, feel free to visit my blog at www.driftingdudes.com. And until our next podcast adventure, I will talk at you guys later. Bye.